There's a brutal truth we rarely admit. Women don't always fall apart when you disappear. They've grown used to you walking away, but still watching. They've seen you go no contact, only to return a few weeks later with a midnight hi. And they know, deep down, you're still out there, silent, waiting for a reaction. But what happens if this time you don't come back? No texts, no signs, no search for validation. What happens if you go silent not to make her miss you, but to rebuild yourself? In this video, you'll discover not how to get back at your ex, but how to become someone even you would never risk losing again. Don't skip this, because once you understand the power of intentional indifference, you'll never look back the same way again. Part 1. Cutting off contact won't break her, but it might reveal your own illusion. No contact used to be seen as the ultimate mental punch. You thought vanishing would cause her world to collapse. But truth is, she's trained for this moment. Through 100 imagined conversations, through every subtle neglect, and maybe 3 reruns of Eat, Pray, Love each year. You're not hurting because you lost her. You're hurting because you lost the image you projected onto her, the ideal woman, the savior, the soulmate. But that image was never real. It only lived in your mind, the same way someone remembers the smell of an old house, even if that house is now just a parking lot. I met a guy named Chris in Dallas. After his girlfriend left him, he decided to cut contact. But in reality, he only blocked her number, while still checking her stories, accidentally scrolling past her TikToks, and even sending anonymous flowers on her birthday. That's not going no contact, that's reverse spellcasting. What you need isn't a block. What you need is emotional detachment. To sit with yourself and admit, I fell in love with an image I created. That's the first real step toward growth. Not the kind of growth that says, I'll be cold so she regrets it, but the kind where you learn to let go. A broken relationship won't weaken you, but clinging to a fantasy will. It's like trying to drink from an empty cup and wondering why you're still thirsty. So instead of hoping she'll notice your absence, let yourself rediscover who you are in that silence. Silence without inner strength is just emptiness, but silence fueled by growth, that's how you return to yourself. You don't need revenge. You need a return, not a return to be loved again, but a return that no longer needs love to feel worthy. Part 2. A Stoic man doesn't play to lose, he masters the distance. Here's something many don't realize. When you cut off contact but still hope she reacts, you haven't truly left. You're just waiting for her to call you back. A truly strong man doesn't use silence as a manipulation tool. He uses it as a declaration of presence. I don't need to speak to be seen. There's a guy in Atlanta named Jamal. Big dude, thick beard, former college basketball player. His girlfriend dumped him for being emotionally distant. In his grief, he vanished. But a week later, he started posting gym stories, solo steak dinners, and captions like, "Real growth is silent." Let's be honest, that's just another way of screaming. The difference between a reactive man and a deliberate man is purpose. Reactivity is meant to show her you've changed. Deliberateness is when you change, even if no one's watching. Stoicism doesn't teach you to be cold. It teaches you to stop depending on other people's responses. A Stoic man isn't angry because she left. He's not thrilled if she texts again. His emotions aren't dictated, they're directed. And that right there is what women find most unsettling: genuine indifference. Not the fake kind to bait her into reaching out, but the kind that truly doesn't care anymore. When she's no longer the center of your universe, that's when she starts feeling the void. Your silence, when powered by inner strength, is like pulling the plug from a device. Suddenly, the other side loses all control. You don't need to say, "I've changed." Let her wonder, what's going on with him? Because the man who doesn't react is the man who can't be controlled. And in the emotional game, That's the most beautiful knockout there is. Part 3. Withdraw your validation. Silence is the sharpest language. Let me be blunt. When you stop texting but still like her photos, still watch every story, and secretly hope she notices you're online, you're not truly silent. You're just whispering, desperately. What confuses a woman the most isn't your anger. It's when you no longer need her validation. Understand this. Validation is emotional currency. When you keep transferring funds through each message, each concerned emoji, each like, you're fueling her ego. And when you stop transferring, that emotional account sets off an alarm. I have a friend named Kevin in Phoenix, a software engineer, classic introvert. After being brutally dumped, he didn't go no contact by blocking her. Instead, he did the opposite. He vanished from the digital world entirely. No sad posts, no gym selfies, no I'm fine memes, just emptiness. 3 weeks later, she texted, "Are you okay?" Kevin didn't reply. A week after that, "I noticed you unfollowed me. What's going on?" Still silence. Only then did Kevin truly win. Not because he made her regret, but because he had withdrawn the supply of validation she had grown used to like oxygen. And that made her ask herself, has he really forgotten me? You don't need to scream to show you're okay. Let your silence and success speak louder than any words. And don't forget, maturity doesn't need a stage. Real change doesn't need applause. You don't need to prove anything. Let her hear your silence like background music for the transformation she's no longer a part of. Part 4. Build yourself in the dark. Become irreplaceable. Here's the thing about self-growth. It rarely happens under the spotlight. Your strongest version is often forged in the dark, where no one claps, no one cares, and no one praises your healing journey. In today's world, everyone shares their healing like a highlight reel with lo-fi music. But the truth is, if you have to announce your growth, you haven't grown yet. I once met a man named Miguel in San Jose. 3 months before his wedding, his fiancée called it off. He didn't throw parties to find himself or post aesthetic photos with captions like "New Beginnings." No. He quietly moved cities, started a new job, enrolled in a data analytics course, and disappeared off the radar. 6 months later, Miguel showed up at his college reunion, healthier, more confident, and speaking with a calm presence that made it clear. What once felt like devastation was now just a reset button. When someone asked about his ex, he simply smiled and said, "It ended so I could begin." No big speeches. His presence said it all. See, attraction doesn't come from surface changes. It radiates from energy when you no longer depend on anyone to feel worthy. You don't need to become someone more lovable just to win her back. You need to become someone irreplaceable, not because she finds you attractive again, but because you now know she's no longer essential to your journey. And here's the irony. When you no longer need her validation, that's when she starts to feel like you can't be replaced. Your silence, your growth, your calm stability from within, none of that is a tactic. It's the real path. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's how a man moves from being left behind to leading the way. Part 5. Forgive to let go. Grow without revenge. In Hollywood revenge movies, the most satisfying scene is always when the main character becomes rich, drives a luxury car, and walks past their ex with a smug smile. But real life has no dramatic soundtrack and no slow motion. The truth is, revenge rarely brings relief. Only forgiveness does. And no, forgiveness is not to give her peace of mind. It's to stop living in the same old room filled with heavy memories. I once met an older man named Henry in Milwaukee, in his 50s, owner of a small car repair shop. He told me, "My first wife left me when I had nothing. All I wanted back then was to become rich, so she'd regret it." But then, after 20 years, he had a house, a car, a peaceful life. When I asked him, Would you still want to see her again? He smiled and shook his head. No. Now I just want to stop feeling angry every time I think about the past. It took me nearly 2 decades to learn how to forgive, not for her, but for myself. That's the core of it. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's a courageous decision to no longer be bound. Because you can't move forward if you're still dragging the shadow of the past. And you can't become your best self if you still need someone to realize what they lost. The more you try to prove something, the more it shows you haven't let go. The painful truth is, she may never realize she was wrong. And that's okay. Because in the end, true victory isn't found in her regret. It's found in your peace. When you live well, grow steadily, and focus on yourself without trying to send a message, you enter a state that can't be touched. And here's the irony. When you no longer need someone to feel regret, they begin to wonder, what exactly did I lose? No accusations, no anger, just silence and a life she no longer has a key to enter. Closing thought. You don't need to become her ideal version for her to come back. The goal isn't to make someone feel regret. It's to become someone who no longer wants to return to his old self. When you grow to the point where you can look back and say, even if I had the chance, I wouldn't trade it all to go back. That's when you're truly free. Maturity isn't about proving anything to others. It's about being strong and clear-headed enough to understand. Letting go at the right moment is the beginning of an entirely new life.